An applicant hits submit, and somewhere, a model gives them a number. 71 out of 100 say they never see it. A few seconds later, an automated email says the company went with other candidates. No human read the resume. The number decided. And here is what almost nobody in that loop understands in 2026. If that number was unfair, the company that used it may have just broken the law. AI hiring was sold as the fix for human bias. What most of it actually did was hide bias inside a number that looks objective. This episode is where that number comes from, the lawsuits already landing because of it, and what both sides need to do now. If you hire, treat this as the part that keeps you out of court. Start with how the bias gets in, because it is never as obvious as a rule that says, reject this group. You build a hiring model by training it on the company's own history, the applicants it screened, interviewed, hired, and promoted. The model's whole job is to find the pattern in who succeeded before and prefer more people like them. If the past was skewed, and almost every company's past is skewed somehow, the model learns the skew as if it were the definition of merit. It gets subtler. Even when you delete the obvious fields like age and gender, the model finds proxies. A graduation year leaks your age. A zip code can stand in for race. A women's college. A gap in your dates. The name of a neighborhood. All of it correlates with the traits you thought you removed. The model does not need the label. It reconstructs it from whatever is left. So the discrimination does not disappear. It gets laundered into a confidence score, and the score feels fair precisely because a machine produced it and a person did not. That is the trap for employers. A recruiter who rejects someone on a hunch can be questioned. A model that rejects 10,000 people with a number gets trusted because it is consistent and fast and does not look like prejudice. But consistency is not fairness. A system that is consistently wrong about older applicants is not neutral. It is just efficient at the same mistake. Looking objective and being objective are not the same thing, and the gap between them is exactly where the legal exposure now sits. This stopped being theoretical. A case is moving through the U.S. federal courts against one of the largest hiring software makers, brought by an applicant who says he was rejected from more than 100 jobs that ran on the same platform, and that the screening worked against him for his age, his race, and a disability. What makes it dangerous for the whole industry is the shape of it. A judge allowed it to proceed as a collective action on the age claim, which means it is no longer one person versus one tool. It is potentially everyone over 40 that the system filtered, across every employer using it. One algorithm, one alleged bias, multiplied across the entire customer base. And companies have already paid. A tutoring firm settled with the federal employment regulator after its application software was set to automatically reject women over 55 and men over 60. More than 200 qualified applicants were screened out for nothing but their birth year, and the settlement ran to around $365,000. The lesson regulators drew from it is the one that matters for you. When the tool discriminates, the liability does not stay with the vendor who built it. It lands on the employer who deployed it. You cannot outsource the blame to the software. So the law moved, and faster than most hiring teams realize. In the European Union, AI used for hiring is now formally classed as high risk, and from August 2026, the companies that deploy it carry real obligations, with penalties that can reach 7% of global revenue. That is not a fine you budget for. That is a number that ends careers. In New York City, you cannot run an automated hiring tool at all unless you have commissioned an independent bias audit within the last year and published the results, with penalties counted per day per violation. Illinois now requires you to tell candidates when AI is evaluating their interview and to get consent before it does. Other states are lining up behind them. The details differ, but the spine is identical everywhere. Prove your tool was tested for discrimination, disclose that you use it, and keep a human answerable for the outcome. There is one concept worth knowing by name, because the audits turn on it. It is called the 4/5 rule. In plain terms, look at the rate your tool selects the most favored group, then check whether any protected group is selected at less than 80% of that rate. If women pass your screen at half the rate of men, or applicants over 40 at a third the rate of younger ones, that gap is a red flag for adverse impact, and it is the first thing an auditor or a plaintiff's lawyer will measure. You can run that check yourself. Most companies never have. So if you are on the hiring side, here is the defensible setup, and it is not complicated. Audit the tool for that adverse impact before you trust it, and again on a schedule after, because a model drifts as the data changes. Keep a human accountable for every rejection the system shapes, with a reason you could say out loud to a regulator. evaluator. Document that the human was actually involved and not just rubber stamping the score. And tell candidates the AI is there. None of this means abandoning the tool. The efficiency is real. It means you can no longer treat the score as an answer you do not have to understand. The model widens and sorts the funnel. A person owns the decision. That one sentence is most of compliance. If you are on the applying side, you have more standing than you think, and it is growing. In a rising number of places, you have the right to be told an AI evaluated you, the right to ask what it found, and in some, the right to request a human review of an automated rejection. You are allowed to ask an employer whether an automated tool was used and whether it was audited, and a company that handles this responsibly will have an answer ready. The black box is being pried open, slowly, by law. Knowing the lever exists is the first step to pulling it. The free brief lays out which rules apply where, in plain language, with a version for candidates and a version for hiring teams, and the link is in the description. Next week, the question every recruiter is privately asking, and few will say out loud, is the AI coming for my job? I went into the actual data on what it already automates and what it still cannot, and the honest answer is more specific and more useful than the headlines.